What's good? It's Woog. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. Big Thief just announced their new album, which is due in February. This new album is titled Dragon New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You. This is their follow-up to Two Hands. Two Hands was the second of their two albums that they dropped in 2019. 2019 by far is like the biggest year for this indie folk group, which, has pretty much grown in popularity since that 2017 release, Capacity, which kind of put them on the indie map. We'll call it the pitchfork map. Now, taking things a step back, Big Thief is Adrian Lenker, Buck Meek. Those are the two vocalists, guitarists, and then you've got Max Olerchik on bass guitar, and then James Crescendia on drums. So this group is out of Brooklyn, but they have a very Native American, very earthy vibe, especially if you listen to not only just the folky, deep roots sound of their beats, of their instrumentation, as well as Adrian Lenker's voice. Adrian Lenker's voice sounds so withered and sounds so wise. It's really something to behold. Like, you listen to, for instance, Cattails. Cattails was on their UFOF album, the first of those two 2019 albums, which grew their fan base like that much more. Like, they had growing success with Capacity in 2017, which was their second of two albums on Conor Oberst's Saddle Creek Records. So they dropped Masterpiece, then Capacity, and then they kicked it into high gear in 2019 with UFOF and Two Hands. UFOF contained a song called Cattails, which is probably to date my favorite Big Thief song. If you want a go-to in terms of getting the Big Thief experience through one song, I would say Cattails. Now, as good as Cattails is on UFOF, and as great as they were rated by Metacritic, by the way, this is one of those bands that has pretty much hit a home run, or if not a home run, at least a solid hit with each of their four albums. Like, Metacritic aggregates all of the publications' critical review scores. So you want to get something that's at least like 75. If you're below 75, it's like, If you're above 75, that's usually pretty solid. Their overall career average score is 83, and UFOF was 87. Two Hands, their latest album, 85. And those two albums were both among the 2019 best reviewed scores overall when you factor the amount of publications that place your album in their best of 2019 list. You know how every year does the roundup and you see ranking 30 to 1 in terms of the 30 best albums of the year? Well, every major publication's score is factored into this Metacritic algorithm, and both UFOF and Two Hands, again, were among the top 15 albums of the year in terms of how often they were placed in a publication's top 30, top 20 album of 2019. So that's what they're coming off of with this new album announcement. And this new album was supposedly recorded in 4 different locations. Upstate New York, that's not New York City, that's more like Rochester, Buffalo, Ithaca, all of those cities way north of the city. So that's one of the 4 cities. Also, Topanga Canyon, which is up in the Los Angeles area above Hollywood. There's Laurel Canyon, Topanga Canyon, basically northern LA. And then the Rocky Mountains, and then Tucson, Arizona. So 4 different locations. They've released 4 songs recently. It was Little Things, Sparrow, Certainty, and Change, those 4 songs. And then they just dropped their latest single, Time Escaping. So all 5 of these songs are supposed to feature on this upcoming album. Buck Meek, the other vocalist, guitarist in Big Thief, also released his solo album last year, as did Adrian Lenker. She just dropped a very good kind of a dual album project in 2020, which was actually a part of my albums of the year. It was an album called Songs. And with Songs, she also released another album called Instrumentals. Both very good, both very different from one another. I listened to both but for different reasons. A couple years prior, she had another good album called Abyss Kiss. That was also on Saddle Creek Records. That one dropped in 2018. But yeah, since 2018, now going into 2019, where they dropped those 2 albums as Big Thief, and then 2020 when Adrian Lenker dropped those 2 new solo albums, all of that material has been on the label 4AD. So Big Thief went from Conor Oberst's Saddle Creek Records to 4AD. And again, their following is just growing with every release because everything's been so critically acclaimed. And again, although I like Cattails as my favorite Big Thief song from UFOF, the album Two Hands, which is the latest one that they just dropped, is what I consider to be the best complete album from Big Thief, beginning, middle, and end. Like, there is hardly a skippable song on that album. A few of my favorite were The Toy, Two Hands, a very slow down tempo type song called Those Girls. That one might be my favorite from the album. And then a more powerful ballad called Not. That was actually Grammy nominated this past year. But yeah, Big Thief is on a roll, and their folky, indie folky sound, I just can't get enough of over these past couple years. Like, this is probably one of my most indie folkish listened to bands on the current musical landscape. You know, I had seen them at a Long Beach festival called Music Tastes Good, and this was in 2017, just after they dropped that Capacity album, and they've only gained more notoriety since. So I'm really curious to hear how they followed up those 2 UFOF and Two Hands albums with this new Dragon, New Warm Mountain, I Believe in You album. Like, I can only imagine how soulfully folky this will be. Again, take a listen to any Big Thief album, but I would really point you to UFOF and Two Hands and Adrian Lenker's voice in particular. So yeah, keep your ears open for these releases. Listen to those 5 new singles that they've been releasing over the past several months as well. That should give you a good idea of what to expect with this upcoming album. And let me know in the comments if you already listened to Big Thief. If so, what is your favorite Big Thief album? And name some of your couple favorite Big Thief songs. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.